Hello, and welcome again to another raintime stream. The sound alerts thank you for being a piece of shit. Love how you're not working. Why are you not working? Hey JPEG, I'm doing alright. I got new microphones, so I thought I might as well continue this. Or apparently my saves just decided to disappear again. So I guess I'm gonna have to start over. Thank you. Okay, so there you are. Bam! This game is very loud, so. Okay. The Raintime is a visual novel-style video game. As you progress through the game, you will at times be prompted to make decisions. Please choose freely. There are no wrong choices. Instructions. Space to move forward. Escape to access the game menu. Alt-Enter for full screen. I pressed Alt-Enter. Da, 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 da. And the manuscript for this game was delivered to my doorstep in spring 2019 by William Hoffman, a distant friend of mine who I attended college with. In order to protect their identities, the names of all persons mentioned have been changed. Three days after his unannounced visit, William's lifeless body was discovered in his room. Piles of books, clearly unread, are stacked up against the cheap plywood bed. The floor is littered with pencils, torn beer coasters, clothes, an empty cognac bottle. Cognac is such a weird, word. It looks like it would be sounded like cognac, but I've heard a lot of people call it cognac. So I just assume that that's the second one is the right pronunciation. Anyway. A cell phone that vibrates with a sonorous hum. 28 times the small device rings, but it doesn't wake the sleeping student. He remains unconscious until late in the afternoon, when the humming has long since subsided. Then I stir. I mutter something beneath my breath and feel the floor beside the bed, without finding anything. And I remain motionless for a while longer, holding on to the lazy embrace of the warm bed sheets, until I finally muster the strength to get up. Dizzying from the sudden effort, one arm resting on my desk, I cast a glance on my scratched up phone screen. One missed call. 18 hours, 28. That's about 6 o'clock. A food binge at 4 in the morning has left me feeling bloated, but I should go to the store, if only because it closes at 7. I pick up my phone again. One missed call from Lars. I call him back. Wilhelm! Verdammt, Miss Kreol! A voice shouts out in a ridiculous mock German. Lars, I say. You okay? Sure am. You coming tonight? We start at 9. I might be a little later. See you there. Wunderschön. Tschüss. End of conversation. First conversation of the day. Could be worse. On my way to the door, I cast a look in the mirror. I'm so close that my features appear all distorted. The sheets have left red markings on the bench sheet. I strike myself in the face until they go away. Part 1. Adieu. There's an afterthought of rain in the air. I cross the street and dive into a residential area, swiftly navigating the concrete labyrinth of post-war housing developments that make up Rybray. And as I pass the houses and the cars and the gardens of blooming evergreens, I gradually become aware of a weak sense of disappointment, lingering deep within my guts. It's a solitary feeling. A subtle sadness, and though it's the first time I pay it any notice, I can't seem to trace its origin. No matter how far I think back. When I arrive at Newmarket, the security guard signals that the store is closing. Catching my breath, I watch silently as the last cars leave the adjacent parking lot. I take off my jacket. It's unnaturally warm for a December evening. Ew, gross. I hate it when it's hot in December. It's annoying. In a corner of the room, 2 young guys are playing around in an electronic arcade machine. The diner here is not much more than an outdated gas station. It's well adorned with faded advertisements for unidentifiable cuts of meat. I order a burger. And my attention drifts toward the boys at the machine, who are playing with stern determination, completely absorbed by their game. I take a step sideways so that I can glance over their shoulders. Suddenly the guy on the left falters. Shit! I hear him swear under his breath. He steps away from the machine, slamming it in passing. You should have taken out the big dude, the other guy comments, shaking his head. He takes a coin from his pocket and resumes playing. They're silent, both of them, with poses betraying immense dedication, as if their very survival depends on the outcome of that single game. I receive my hamburger, and when I bite into the bun, the different sauces drip down onto my napkin, soaking it throughout. And as I'm sitting there, making a mess of myself, I can't suppress the growing suspicion that the owner must be looking at me. But I turn around to see that he's no longer standing beside his counter. The two guys are still there in their corner, just as transfixed by the machine as when I first came in. They're very normal, uneducated country boys. These days, Ryberry is mostly a commuter town, though there's still a small agrarian community that works the surrounding farms. I smile. These kids usually start working right out of high school, as there's not much else for them to do. And when the work is done, they end up here, throwing away their hard-earned cash at stupid arcade games. Arcade games are not stupid. A blob of sauce drips down the arm. Look at them. Will they have girlfriends by now? Probably shitty girlfriends. I let out an inaudible chuckle. What are you grinning at? A coarse voice calls out. I jump. One of the guys has approached my table and is staring at me with an indecipherable expression on his face. Excuse me? I reply, as I put down the remains of my meal before attempting, in vain, to wipe my hands with the soaking wet napkin. What's your problem? He continues. I saw you laughing. Do we amuse you? No, I reply quickly. I was laughing at something else. Why would I laugh at you guys? He's standing right in front of me, staring me down with narrowed eyes. His crew-cut and pale acne-scarred face evoke a materialistic severity. Militaristic severity. Answer me. What were you laughing at? I'm dumbstruck by his persistence. But he really isn't backing down. I start. Eh? He parrots me. Come on, boy. With your hamburger. He utters those last syllables in a menacing staccato. I was thinking about a friend of mine, I answer, somewhat dismissively. It was just a joke. Tell me the joke, he replies instantly. Oh, come on. It was an inside joke, I add. You wouldn't get it anyway. I wouldn't get it? He sneers. You think I wouldn't get it? I get more than you think. Now let's hear what pretty boys like you laugh about. My mind's racing to come up with something inoffensive to feed him, and he's just staring at me, patiently. When do I sleep? Probably earlier. I actually was sleeping during the day for a little bit, and then it cooled down. And then I had to, upload the 18-hour stream that I did a couple days ago. Split that in half because it wasn't, uploading to YouTube properly. But also, hello, Gummy. I woke up not too long ago, not gonna lie. So. Bullying strangers must be the only entertainment he has in his sad, pathetic life. Well, I start, if you really want to know. Last week I was out with that friend in a bar. A tacky place, loud music, stupid people, sweaty DJ. Yes, and? He interrupts me. Well, we were bored, so I persuaded him to go over to the DJ and request something by Diepenbrock. Diepenbrock, you know him, a 19th century composer. Just got home, getting ready to sleep. Nice. Sleep is always nice. I fucking woke up in a pile of sweat. So I took a shower and did all the things that I needed to do, and then I started streaming. It's feeling a lot nicer now. Temperature's not so warm. Would have been better to sleep, but I already slept, so here I am. Who, me be on? I already know you're gonna be on. Yeah, I know. I'm usually around every time you stream. I paused for a moment, awaiting his reaction, but he appears to have quieted down at least. At last. Oh, you'll be streaming a lot more then? The weekend off. The weekend off. Or you'll be streaming longer. Friday night and Saturday night. Oh. Well, if you need a second or third, I'll definitely be available. I usually am. Well, the DJ had apparently never heard of Diepenbrock, probably thought it was one of those obscure Austrian EDM producers. So he starts browsing through his records looking for something by Diepenbrock. Can you imagine? After a while... Corey! A loud voice interrupts me. Try to be mindful of our real customers. It's the owner, who has silently returned to his counter, and he's overlooking the scene with a grin on his face. Corey shrugs and strolls back to his friend. They continue their game. And I remain growing rapidly aware of the sickening scent of cold hamburger and jelly. The greasy mints and coagulating acid sauces have begun interacting, producing an almost fecal odor. It penetrates deep into my nostrils. But this is nonsense. Abruptly, I pick up the hamburger and walk to the door. I throw the disgusting half-eaten bun into the garbage can. I step outside and cast a last glance over my shoulder, into the dark, grimy diner, just to see the owner laughing at me heartily. And I try with all my might to look as angry as possible. DBD? Dead by Daylight. Yeah? Where the pavement ends and only cars go further, a long wall of foliage has been erected to shield against the noise of the N723. Below it runs a narrow underpass which leads to a traffic island on the motorway. Cars flash by. I've just missed the bus to Bremersburg, and it's no use waiting here, as the only come once every hour. So I decided to walk to town. The bus. Carefully, I make my way along the narrow strip of gravel that separates the N723 from the fields beyond. The sun hasn't set, but there's a threatening field of cumulus clouds hanging in the sky, turning the motorway pitch black. That's good to hear, Gummy. God, when I went and got like better internet and a new cable, this new cable that I got long fucking while ago, it's been making gaming really nice online. Hardly any issues with like lag and stuttering and all that. And if there's any stuttering or lag, it's just the game's fault. And I can also tell when I'm being bad. Hopefully they don't find out your IP. You gotta be careful with that shit, otherwise you're gonna get DOSed again real quick. And your replacement won't even matter. Don't want to show that again like last time. Blacklisted. The sun hasn't set, but there's a threatening field of cumulus clouds hanging in the sky, turning the motorway pitch black. This year it hasn't snowed yet, and it won't be snowing anytime soon. 4 years ago was the last time we had a real cold down here. Since then, the winters have been mild and rainy. A little further down the road, a traffic light turns to red, and the line of cars gradually slow down. Beside me, a light blue sedan has come to a halt, its engine running. I can make out a woman behind the wheel, with dark brown hair and youthful features. She looks my way for a second. Her image, contrasted by the lights outside, speaks a distant kindness, though it's as if she's staring right past me. I turn around, but see nothing there. Well, that seems pretty shitty, Gummy. I hope they're not able to track you down for a while. The lights change to green, and she returns her attention to the road ahead. One by one, the cars are set in motion until she follows suit. And as she accelerates, she glances in my direction one last time before merging into the bright red procession that marks the N723. Good night, Gummy. After walking for about half an hour, a flash lights up the sky. I cower crawling up against the foliage, and as I try to calm myself, I feel the first raindrops coming down. I won't make it to the city before the storm breaks loose. I leave the motorway, hurrying past the dark fields where winter crops grow, until I reach Old Hopetown. I enter the tabernacle. There's an older woman sitting at a table, dark hair, blue jacket, reading a book. The barman's talking to a regular. I order a beer and pick a seat at one of the windows, at a safe distance from the other guest. Of course. The walls here are covered with aerial photographs of farms. Probably farms in the vicinity, as I recognize parts of the N723 on one or two of them. The barman brings me a beer, and while I take my first sip, I notice a pile of tabloid newspapers lying on the table. I open up the evening mirror. 1848, that's just great. A large text ad cries at me. A little further down the page, there's a feature piece about a little litter of kittens who have barely escaped a gruesome death. I drink some more beer, reading the gutter journalism and listening in on the mind-numbing conversations at the bar. And as I'm sitting there with those aerial photos on the wall and the newspapers in front of me, I'm suddenly overwhelmed by a powerful sensation. As if my field of perception, which is usually so limited in range, has suddenly expanded greatly. I see people in distant cities, in remote village inns. I can feel their breath, picture their faces, hear them mutter softly to themselves. And my mind drifts towards the boys in the diner, who are still going strong on their arcade machine. And as I picture them, my initial anger towards the two slowly gives way to a kind of admiration. It shows discipline, in a sense, to play the same game, night after night, in that murky little restaurant of theirs. They must be experts by now. And those are my fellow countrymen, my peers, standing there. In the meantime, the curly-haired woman has put away her book and is now staring silently out the window. She's stroking her left forearm with her hand tenderly, as though it were wounded. Then a vibration against my outer thigh. I pick up the phone. William, where are you? I can barely make out Lars's voice, shouting over a barrage of background noise. I'm sheltering from the rain, I reply. In Hopetown. I told you I'd be late. Speak up, I can't hear you. We're moving on to Proteus in a minute. What time will you be there? I don't know, I reply as loud as I can. Depends on when it dries up. I'll call you when I'm in town. It's dry now, old cobbler. We'll be seeing you in a second. Mach schnell. Lars hangs up. And as I put away my phone, I notice that the little inn is suddenly wrapped in complete silence. The barman and the guests, who've apparently followed my conversation closely, are all looking in my direction. I smile at them awkwardly and move to pick up the newspaper, but I hesitate. Matters like these are precarious. I'm an outsider, after all, making a loud phone call in here. I down my beer and step outside. It has indeed stopped raining. When the reclamation of the artificial island has been finally completed, the government decided that a sprawling modern city was to arise upon its soil. To avoid repeating the failures of the major urban planning initiatives of the time, which had rapidly degenerated into characterless atrocities without social or aesthetic value, they appointed 12 city architects to each design a distinct part of town. That way, each subdivision, the harbor, the university quarter, the city center, and the numerous residential areas surrounding them was developed and completed in strict isolation from each other. Bremersburg became a testing ground for modernist architecture. In a frantic attempt to override all existing conventions, the architects designed fantastic buildings in every geometric form possible. A metropolis emerged that was like no other, with towers, balconies, false facades, and columns scattered as far as the eye could see. Although, for a pedestrian, the chaotic whole is still somewhat navigable, cars get lost in the labyrinthine network of streets, in which only the broad inner ring provides any sense of direction. It's especially in summer when Bremersburg is at its saddest, when the bright sun reveals in all its glory just how eerily the city comes together. It's in these months that the forever lost traffic is at its busiest, causing the honking and roaring of the motorists to melt together into a disquieting groan. In winter, however, when nights fall early, the city truly comes into its own. As the corners and dead ends flood with shadows, its architectural peculiarities are obscured, merging the colors and textures of the different buildings, which are normally so contrasting together in its homogeneous whole with a visual complexity that's surreal to behold. During heavy rainfall, when the extensive drainage system is rendered incapable of disposing of all the water, streets turn into rivers, stairs into waterfalls, and basements into deep, dark pools. And the gutters and the drain pipes bring forth gurgling sounds, mysterious tones that resound throughout the streets in unfolding dissonance of gradually dissipating rainwater. I think I should lower the music volume just a little more. There we go. The lake lies dark in front of me. Fresh winds are rapidly pushing away the rain clouds, revealing a yellow evening sky. A long breakwater has been built around the harbor of Bremersburg, extending far into the river. There was a piece in the Evening Mirror about a drunkard who'd fallen off it a few weeks ago. He was saved, in the end, by a homeless guy. I scratch my hair, which is almost dried now. A tension is building in my loins that gradually pushes me away from the lake. I could use this time more productively to prepare for a lecture or something like that. I chuckle. The music in Proteus is playing deafeningly loud. Yep. I look around for a moment without recognizing anyone. Dog. Okay, sound volume and voice volume are also going down. Okay. I look around for a moment without recognizing anyone, and push past the bar towards the rear of the building, where some lonely men are standing against the wall. Lars pounces me immediately. "William, it's about time," he shouts, trying to make himself heard over the noise. "What were you thinking walking all this way?" "I'm fine," I reply. "You guys need beers?" Lars gestures that he can't hear me, but I notice Bernard raising his half-empty glass and producing an affirmative cough. The bar is crowded with dark figures, men in their 30s, unshaven, some with baseball caps pulled far over their eyes. They're all drinking beer silently, as the music's too loud for conversation. William can afford to buy us beers, even though he spends all of his money on overdue fees? Matt shouts cheerfully as I return with 4 glasses. My fine's gone up to $38.50, I call back. Have you seen the cars those librarians drive nowadays? Lars adds dryly. But on a serious note, Matt starts, you could probably rent a better place if it weren't for all that money you owe the library. I mean, something closer by, so you wouldn't have to walk. Listen, Matt, Lars interjects. You don't know the first thing about student housing situation around here. Your daddy set you up with a penthouse apartment, remember? That disqualifies your views on real estate. Now, William here is a man of the people, he continues. He rents in Ryberry because that's where the masses dwell. We aren't all equally privileged. Shut up, Lars, I reply. You're going off again. I drink some beer to calm my throat, which has become hoarse from all the shouting. Matt started dancing one of his goofy dances, and I see him point towards his chest. I got the t-shirt! He calls out towards Bernard, who frowns and looks the other way. God, that is so loud. Stop. Stop with the loud. No loud. After a few minutes, Evelyn joins us. Pre-drunk as well. Been waiting long? She calls out. No, not. Lars starts, but she cuts him off. Who's buying the next round? No, Lars interjects. We're leaving right now. Don't you dare order anything. Fuck, I hate how loud that music is. God. I hate how fucking loud it just has to be for some reason. Why does it have to be that loud? It's not even part of the music volume. It's just straight up sound volume, which is weird. Tired? I reply. Me? I shouldn't be. I just got out of bed. She smiles in disbelief. Never mind. I pause, not knowing what to say. You know, Proteus is a hellhole. Oh yeah, it's filled with losers during the week. But it's okay on Saturday nights. You know, for picking up drunk desk jockeys. Picking up drunk desk jockeys, I inquire. You do that a lot? Oh, not at all. But you get the idea. She casts me a teasing glance. Still, it's a lot more fun on the weekends. Try it. Evelyn's more a school teacher than seductress. She embodies a type of homely kindness, with her round cheeks and matronizing tone of voice, to the extent that I often feel like a small child in her presence. It started raining again. By the time the 5 of us reached the Otter, water's pouring down from the skies. It's quiet inside. Students are lounging around on the sofas, and a couple of old people are talking at the bar. I head for the restrooms. After carefully confirming I'm alone, I take a look in the mirror. My face appears exceptionally pale and skinny. I've been sleeping 11 hours a day. You end up skipping meals that way. And there's always that heavy feeling in my stomach, as if it can't bear any solid foods. I dry off my washed-out face with a piece of toilet paper, and gently knock some color into my cheeks. On my return, there's a glass of beer waiting for me. Now the issue with you, Lars, Bernard exclaimed loudly, is that you have some Oriental blood in you. That's why you can't discuss these topics in a rational manner. Matt laughs out loud. Bullshit, Lars replies. You know that's nonsense. I don't see how that's even relevant to the discussion. Oh, I'm sure you do, Bernard calls out with a sneer in his voice. You're missing my point, Lars continues. If a notorious apologist like Fraser writes that 3,000 people were massacred, you can definitely question his numbers. Lars is using an overly grave demeanor that he always puts on when he's trying to win historical debates. It's annoying, but so is Bernard, so they cancel each other out. Come on, how many people are you going to shoot down with an M95? Bernard coughs loudly, sending a cascading echo through the bar. They were on that island for 2 months tops. 3 months, Lars corrects him. Remember Babi Jar? 30,000 dead in only 2 days. I really don't see the point you're trying to make. Babi Jar? Why would you even bring that up? I'm about to interject, but I change my mind. Look, I think a death toll of 3,000 is on the conservative side, Bernard continues soothingly. But you're clearly exaggerating. You people always want to blame us for everything. You people? Lars exclaims. Bernard, what are you implying? I told you, I'm not Oriental. As a German lit major, I don't really excel in trivial knowledge, let alone history. But that's okay. I know other things. My analytical skills are a lot better developed than theirs, and there's that strange contentment I get from fathoming an old, forgotten piece of literature. An sensation that goes far beyond the world of dry facts. It's something personal, not suitable for pub talk. Evelyn returns from somewhere, and I finish my beer. William, you look pale. You should go outside more, Evelyn calls in my direction. I'm trying to think up a witty comeback, but I'm tired and Matt beats me to it. What do you mean, go outside more? He's walked here all the way from Ryberry. From Ryberry? Evelyn gasps in surprise. Let's move to the sofas, I reply, weary of their morose banter. New guests arrive and shake out their coats. The barman pours drinks. Voices reverberate. It's warm. Someone hands me another beer, and it's growing increasingly more difficult to follow the conversation. After a while, we're sitting at the wooden tables that stand against the back of the room. The chair I'm sitting in is upholstered with a lovely green velvet that glides softly through my fingers, like damp moss. Electronics, wind instruments. But that's not true innovation. The electronics just add without changing the fundamental structures of the music. If a rock band uses a violin or a keyboard, it's nice as something extra, but it doesn't threaten the holy trinity of guitar, drum, and bass. Just imagine, there are millions of bands, Every conceivable song has been written before. Every pop song. Bernard interjects. They ignore him. That's so stupid. I can hear from the way you're talking that you don't even have a basic comprehension of music theory. Do you even know what frequency is? I focus my attention towards the large Try-Hard Art Nouveau posters hanging above the bar. By the way, I saw you had the t-shirt. That's great, Evelyn calls out to Matt, who is disinterestedly tearing apart up a beer coaster. A smile appears on his face. That's right, I got the t-shirt! Can't wait till January. I scratch my chair a little more. The faces around me are a blur. I doze off for a moment. You should drink something, a voice calls out to me. I sit up. It's Lars, who's placed a new beer next to my half-full glass. Sure thing, I reply quietly as I take a sip and doze off again. Time passes. Voices grow silent. Evelyn leaves, and she's got work the next morning. The older people have also disappeared. And someone, somewhere, starts speaking. For months on end, the workmen were drawn from their homes and families to work on the earthen embankment that would protect the polder against the water. At night, they were packed tightly together in their makeshift barracks. Even the slightest breeze would set the cold, dark water on the lake beating up against the wooden walls. And the only thing that kept them warm was the thick layer of mud that was caked on their bodies like a protective shell. They set to work with iron willpower, every day under conditions that bordered slavery, a task that seemed as endless as the waters of the artificial lake. Artificial lake. But a superhuman ethos lived among them, a steely resolve that kept the men united, as if their minds were riveted together, and they no longer cared for matters of every day. A brackish, muddy culture arose among the workmen of the lake. They told each other stories after work, although none of them were ever put to paper. After the embankment was finished, the remaining water was pumped out, and slowly patches of earth fell dry. At first, the reclaimed seabed was bare and inhospitable, too soft to even set foot upon. But soon, dramatic changes began to take place amongst the waterlogged marshes. Crops started to sprout, and rooted effortlessly into the muddy soil, where they fought each other for survival. Move, move, the elderberry hissed up to the knotweed. This is my spot. My spot! The knotweed, however, bowed for no one, and stealthily crept up to the elderberry. Don't fear, he whispered back. You'll root here, untamed elderberry. You don't need all that space, do you? The elderberry felt violated, but tried to not let it show. She rose out so high above the other plants. What could really hurt her? Yet she wasn't at ease with the knotweed curled up so close around her feet. that vulgar, seedy shrub, which had it all developed into and while the plants competed amongst each other, the workmen tried to reintegrate into mainland society. But the dry world wouldn't take them back, with their dreamy gazes and stoic attitude to life. Some of the men eventually found work on the large oil rigs in the sea. There they created a life that felt somewhat familiar, where the days were long and the sea would beat up against their platform in the same stable rhythm they had been accustomed to. But in the end, the greasy sensation of oil on their hands never came close to the safe dry mud that had that had encapsulated them during their long nights of the lake. Other men became drunkards, got incarcerated, or ended up taking their own lives. Their vain search for an existence of total surrender, as they had grown accustomed to on the lake, completely destroyed them. They were rendered indebted to a path, an immaterial battle against the forces of nature that had existed only for a very short period of time. And the polder, that unsightly artificial island, cast out of the bed of a murdered sea, kept changing. After plants had sprouted all around, the first generations of insects emerged. They bred effortlessly into the swampy pools of mud. At first, there were thousands, then hundreds of thousands, then millions. They multiplied faster than good for them and fell like rain from the sky. Dead flies lay scattered all around, and the brave pioneer who dared send his automobile over the narrow, unhardened roads had to rely solely on his windshield wipers to retain even a trace of visibility. The first inhabitants of the polder, a completely different kind of people than the men who built it, were terrified by the sight of them. On the hottest summer days, the flies flew into the houses, in and out, day and night, drowning in beer glasses and pounding themselves to death against the window panes. School children swept the corpses together on the windowsills to mold morbid snowball fights out in the yard. And there was always that maddening sound, that noise that, after getting out of bed in the morning, started with a dozen flies pounding against the glass, and upon arrival in the kitchen had already swollen to a huge humming choir. The worst came after opening the front door, when the full extent of the cacophonous terrorism revealed itself in an alien symphony. A gruesome masterpiece of thousands of voices buzzing through the streets. There were only a few summoners in which the fly population was this high. That was before the spiders came. I don't even recall leaving the otter. As we get closer to the inner ring, the brick facades give way to a modern office buildings. Lars and I cross the road and dive into a narrow alleyway, where the abyss is located. Lars is off to the bar. I sit and observe the DJ for a while. A dark-haired woman with an angry expression on her face. She's probably annoyed about having to work at night, and she's pretty rubbish at it too, considering that nobody's dancing. Lars returns with beers. The doorman lied to us. He said it was busy inside. Look at that grumpy DJ, I say, slurring my speech. Lars seems distracted. Hey, it's Anna, he remarks. Anna Mulder, from the theater community. She got some girlfriends with her. Lars is pointing over at a group of women. They all seem to have the same shade of chestnut brown hair. Though that could be due to the lighting. Met her once, I reply. She's cute. Let's go say hello. We approach the girls, with Lars leading the way. I'm starting to see a world a little sharper again. Lars nudges Anna. This is Mr. Hoffman, he announces to the girls, pointing at me. You know him, right? Anna casts a glance in my direction. I don't think I do, she replies. But how have you been doing, Lars? Saccharine beats pound into me, dragging me further out of my fatigue. My attention's grabbed by the girl standing next to Anna. She's short, and on closer inspection, it appears her hair is slightly lighter than the others. Isn't her name Caroline, or Jasmine maybe? She's majoring in anthropology, and she's also on the theater committee, if I recall correctly. There's something about the way her pointy nose protrudes above her fine upper lip. It's tender. Noble, almost. Suddenly, she looks my way and smiles. Though it's a tormented smile. She thinks I'm a creep, staring at her like this. I avert my gaze. I take a sip of beer and hold the glass up to the light. The yellow liquid gently washes back and forth, evoking an impression of waving cornfields. Jasmine's a pretty girl. It'd be better if she didn't see me standing here by myself. I feel an urge to go outside. I lean over to interrupt Lars' conversation. Hey Lars, I'm calling it a night. This place is closed in 10 minutes, he shouts back into my ear. Stay a little longer. No more rainbow kappa. Exactly 10 minutes later, I'm standing outside. The bus station is built slightly higher than the surrounding landscape, offering an intriguing view of the N723. In the distance, I can see a vast expanse of fields and wind turbines that lead all the way to the edge of the polder. Going into the abyss was a ridiculous waste of time. I try to recall how Lars talked me into it, but it's fuzzy. The stuffy air, the weak beer, the conceited voices. It may have started raining outside, as the humming of night seems to have grown slightly louder. What would Lars and Anna be doing at the moment? With my right hand, I softly stroke the empty seat beside me. The engine's making a gurgling sound. The temperature is rising, and the swaying of the vehicle almost rocks me to sleep. Stripes drift over my retina. For a moment, I'm back in the club, with Jasmine the center of attention. Also, I got new mics, clown. I wake up just in time for the Ryberry stop. I take off my shoes at the bottom of the stairs, head upwards, enter my room, place my shoes on the floor, fall down on the bed. Before I drift away, I wants to drink some water, but I'm growing drowsy again. To drink water later, set the alarm clock. Make it to the 3 o'clock lecture. The water nymphs left long ago. Yet still, I heard a roaring of waves. I opened my eyes too. And here we get our choice. I'm gonna go with the C. To a Kenotype C. A terrible drought is raging through my mouth. I'm breathing heavily. It hurts to swallow. I attempt to sit upright, but my head is pounding and I sink down again. I doze off. Two hours later, the room's spinning. I drag myself to the sink and force myself to drink the nauseating lukewarm water, like a camel before a desert journey. Then I get up to my toes. I get up on my toes to open the tall window. A gust of fresh air blows into the room, as if a vacuum seal has been broken. I pause for a moment to breathe in the air. Just one more hour of sleep, then everything will be fine again. And while I'm lying in bed, more and more cold air flows into the room. The condensation on the window slowly seeps away. My leg hairs rise up straight, and the layers of dust under my bed blow upward and spread throughout the room to form an invisible layer on the floor and books. I'm breathing quietly now, my sleep growing deeper. I dream a dream in which I keep missing the bus. 3 hours pass before I stir again. It's 14:36. I'm feeling much better now. My phone battery is almost dead. I get up, shove a few library books in my bag, and descend the stairs. New is written in giant letters on the window. Inside, a range of primary colors is poured out on me. The refrigerator unit produces a constant drone. Emart's bread section has little more to offer than a few bags of toaster strudel and a squashed loaf of light. The smell of spoiled dairy is starting to affect me. I haven't eaten since yesterday evening. For a while, I stand there, inspecting a large rack of mineral water, just to rest my overstimulated eyes. The people here live in 4 meters below sea level, and yet they're willing to pay money for water. They should impose an import ban on the stuff. One day it'll be up to our necks again. I grab a box of cornflakes from a shelf. There's a short line at the cash register. The man in front of me must be in his late 40s, with flabby arms and long, light red hair that's all tied back into a ponytail, save for a few dry strands that fall down over his sweaty forehead. In his shopping basket, I see 2.5-liter cans of beer, a tin of condensed milk, and a bag of canary feed. Would he make it if the dikes broke through? Would he be able to swim against the current with those chubby arms of his? I hope he has enough time to set his little bird free. It's not much later that day that I encounter an unknown gray cat sitting on a wall near the motorway. The animal's eyeing me up stubbornly. He looks ancient, perhaps older than myself, with battered ears and thinning fur. I take out a handful of cornflakes and place them on the wall next to him. Cats don't eat cornflakes. He sniffs at them disinterestedly before pacing away. As the town hall has been under renovation, it's draped in thick polyethylene sheeting. On a pale December afternoon, the covers have the same light gray hue in the sky, camouflaging the building into a colossal chasm of Central Square. A young man, tall, black hoodie and glasses, approaches me. "You want a flyer?" he asks me routinely, and as he hands me an orange pamphlet and prepares to move on. But I stop him. "Wait a minute, what's this?" I ask. He halts and turns to face me. "Oh, it's a flyer for One Front," he replies dismissively. With his right hand, he's holding a stack of pamphlets against his leg, while rifling through them nervously with his thumb. His scruffy blonde hair protrudes from his head in irregular tufts. For some reason, he seems like the ideal target. "Ah, One Front," I reply, grinning nervously. "Tell me about them." "Well, we stand for our national identity," he replies. "You've probably noticed that it's getting busier over here. We're under pressure from all sides." I interrupt him. "We're under pressure, you say? That sounds dangerous." "As I said, our culture is being threatened," he continues. "You've probably experienced for yourself how the city is changing. We're losing our core values. You're a student, right?" I nod. "Well, as a student, you've got to realize that things are happening to this country that really transgress all boundaries. I'm talking big topics, like mass immigration, terrorism. What are your thoughts on that?" He stopped talking as if waiting for a response. "So what do you think about Diepenbrock?" I ask him. "That's not what I mean," he replies. "Just generally our way of life, our values." I interrupt him again. "Diepenbrock, what do you know about him? Isn't he an outspoken symbol of our national identity?" The boy is fidgeting impatiently, as if he's looking for a way out of a conversation. "You know, that's cool," he replies. "Literature is important. I think I read one of his books in high school once, but I really have to continue handing out." "Read one of his books? Read one of his books?" I shout out triumphantly, my eyes glistening. "Diepenbrock wasn't an author, was he? Come on! Diepenbrock! Alfie Diepenbrock!" Diepenbrock. He seems downright irritated now. "Good one. You got me," he sneers. "Just read that flyer. Bye." And as he's about to leave, I take out his pamphlet that I'd stuffed into my jacket pocket, crumple it up into a ball, and throw it at his feet. "Diepenbrock! Don't you forget that name. Vive l'orange blanc bleu! As he moves away, I consider trailing him, but I decide against it. Remember, Ducky, you got timed out. Getting timed out takes away your mod status. 50 meters further, he resumes handing out flyers in the same evasive manner as before. No. In the library, I pass reading halls filled with students quietly at work. They're probably not the brightest if they have to study this hard. It's not even close to exam week. I take 3 books from my bag and hand them to the administration's officer. He's a young guy, probably a student himself trying to earn something on the side. They're late, he tells me after scanning the books. Like, really, really late. All 3 of them. He has an apologetic grimace on his face. So, what's the damage? I ask stoically. There's a $12.50 late fee, he replies, per book. So that makes $37.50 in total. What? I exclaim, slightly louder than intended, as a wave of anxiety rushes over me. I'm sorry, he replies sympathetically. I know it's high, but you've had them for 5 months. The library must have sent you plenty of warnings. But it's a library fine, I protest, fully aware that I'm making a scene. It should be 10 cents per week or something like that. This is ridiculous. I know, but it's a new policy to prevent inconveniencing the other students. People may be waiting for that book, you know. I pause for a second, contemplating the futility of arguing with the overly patient administration's officer. But I feel obliged to put up a fight, even if it's just for show. So, do they get the money? What do you mean? He asks. Do those poor students get the money from late fees wired over to them, if they're so inconvenienced? Listen, he replies, audibly growing tired of the conversation. I don't make the rules over here. He stops to look something up in his computer. The system shows you have 18 more titles at home. I'd return them all. Get it over with. Consider this a lesson learned. Then he smiles. Return them all? I need those books. So what happens if I keep them longer? You bankrupt me? I pay tuition, you know. It won't go higher. Fees are capped at $12.50 per book. Do you want to pay the amount for those 3 right now, or should I add it to your payments due? You can add them, I reply. If it's capped at $12.50, I'm keeping these. I pick up the books from the counter. I might as well get my money's worth. I'd advise against that, he chuckles. It's really not how our library works. Oblivious to the rain, shoppers scurry towards the last bargains of the day. I'm trying to disregard their neuroticism as much as possible, but they still end up getting in my way. Suddenly, a familiar voice. Are you okay, old boy? Bernard, have you finished working? Yes, he answers. Busy day. Say, I didn't know you lurked here before sundown. Let's get a beer somewhere. 2 beers, I call out to the bartender as we pass by. Bernard nudges me. I actually felt like having a wine, he whispers gloomily into my ear. What do you mean? I ask him. You just suggested we have a beer. That was a figure of speech, but beer's okay. It doesn't matter. Also a red wine, please, I call out to the bartender, who's just finished pouring. It really doesn't matter, Bernard grumbles sorely. We pick up the drinks and head upstairs. Brunish. I don't know how to pronounce that. There's a small pub situated in the corner of a residential block. Despite its central location, it's largely ignored by the shopping public. The patrons consist mainly of residents of the upper floors and students. You're quite the poser with your red wine, I say to Bernard after we sit down. He guffaws. I drink the head off my first glass of beer. So what brings you to town anyway? He asks me. You're usually in bed around this time of day. I had some library books to return, I reply. Good for you. They're about to raise the overdue fees again. I heard the faculty is struggling with a persistent hole in their budget, he adds. They're trying to patch it over on over the backs of lazy students. I, for one, say no taxation without representation. Say, while I'm at it, Bernard continues, are you busy next month? How so? I reply. Well, as you know, we've been rehearsing something by Ibsen recently, with my drama group. We're still looking for someone to play a porter. Would that be something for you? Bernard's always busy with that little troupe of his. Last summer they performed King Lear for a 12-headed audience. Well, come on, man, it'll be fun. Don't you want to keep the arts alive? I don't know, I reply. I probably won't show up for rehearsals. I'm not punctual lately. Got a lot on my mind. It's okay. You won't have to practice. You only have one word in the whole play. His insistence is starting to bother me. It's not gonna work out, Bernard. I'll fuck things up. I don't want to put in effort. Bernard seems like he's about to retort. You'll do fine without me, I add. Everyone does. You can ask Matt to do it if the part's really that easy. 6 pence, Bernard calls out. 6 pence, that's all you have to say. There, you've learned the role by heart. No, Bernard, I hesitate. You know what? I'll sleep on it. Bernard looks satisfied. He's pondering as though he's searching for something to keep the conversation going. I take a few large sips of my beers. You may find this interesting, he starts. I'm working on something by von Schutz. You know him? I think I've covered him once, I lie. He's okay. Isn't that the most wonderful prose you've ever read? He bursts out. The way he builds those sentences. I couldn't write that in 1,000 lifetimes. Bernard, who's just taken a big sip of wine, chokes on his words and breaks out spluttering. I watch my friend with compassion. Bernard's afflicted with a morbid tendency to gush. But it's an act, mostly. He's shaped his entire personality, millimeter by millimeter, in his room behind his writing desk. I wait till the boy's done coughing. It's just books, Bernard. Be careful now. He recovers, whispering. That beauty, William. That's it. I'd give anything for that. I could spend my entire life slaving away in that stupid clothing store, if only to catch a glimpse, now and then, of a magnificent play. The beauty of the female form. The rays of morning sun. That's great, Bernard. I finish my first glass of beer. You want some? I ask him, gesturing at the second. Have you ever been in love, William? Or have you ever experienced that divine feeling of wholeness when a naked girl embraces you? It's addictive, hiding underneath your skin, firing up in the most unexpected of moments. Perhaps. Say, on that matter, do you know Jasmine from the theater committee? I ask it with a smile, just to see if I elicit a response. Yeah, I know her. Not bad. Her father is Joachim von Buren. I think he produced a few plays in Hans. Major Hans. Mayor Hans. I don't know. I'll pronounce it the last way. You struck gold there, old boy. I just kept staring at him attentively. Look, you know my opinions on these matters, he continues. I'd say go for it. Do whatever it takes. Even if you have to lay down your life in the process, he pauses. Another beer, William? Then I'll have another glass of red. No thanks, I'm already one ahead of you. I have a lecture to prepare. A lecture? Interesting. So have you guys arrived at Von Kleist yet? Bernard, I sigh. What image do you have of the German curriculum at a small-town university? I get up and put on my coat. At 3 o'clock this afternoon, a lecture will commence where I probably won't be appearing again. Through the window, I see dark rain clouds gathering. I feel a cold shiver about to rise up, but manage to suppress it by rapidly brushing my bare feet over the low pile carpet. I want to go to sleep, but force myself to study for a bit. Otherwise, I'd be taking the easy way out. I browse through the books by the bed. On top of one of the stacks lies a work by Wilhelm von Schutz, which I quickly borrowed at the library yesterday afternoon. Bernard's a terrible phony. I open it up and start deciphering the old black letter typeface. English, please. Each of us, in the end, must embrace the spirit of the universe from one or another side. Is he a philosopher? Then his dogmas will form the center point of his outlook, as they correspond to the complexity of reality. Is he a poet? Then each vision of his imagination will bear the revelation of totality reborn. It's tough matter, 19th century or something. I should actually be doing my coursework. I must have skipped 6 lectures by now. Formally, that's too much. But I know Professor Elfriede likes me. Elfriede. Spirits of the second kind don't want to reach, neither individually nor together. A clearer understanding of this than they already are familiar with. While the former seek the absolute, they seek a congruence. Congruence? Congruence in what sense? I hope this isn't linguistic treatise. And are satisfied as soon as individuals mutually align themselves in common congruence. That last part I read twice in a row. I like Elfrida too. She's sharp and dresses nicely. She's not as motherly as Professor Hoekstra. Everyone likes Hoekstra better except for me. I don't trust her. The second way of treating thought, by hinting only at individual shared properties, and often without care or provision, enables him even more to unite with each and every phenomenon that he encounters. With my concentration waning, I'm searching my desk for a pack of gum, lifting up books, pushing papers away, but it's nowhere to be found. Because we can grasp the peculiar more easily, and it, as far as it succeeds, disappears even more. My phone vibrates with a message from Lars. I jolt upright. William, Rampage starts at 9 at De Proteus tonight. Because we can grasp the peculiar more easily, and it, as far as it succeeds, disappears even more when it penetrates the mind deeply through extrapolation and comparison, where it... Elfrida. There's something in her voice, as though she doesn't take me too seriously. Her figure is highlighted beautifully in those chiffon dresses she wears. But for some reason, I can't enjoy them as much. Because we can grasp, I pick up my phone again to send a confirmation message to Lars. Because we can grasp the peculiar more easily. Another message. Don't come walking this time. Because we can grasp the peculiar more easily, and it, as far as it succeeds, disappears even more when it penetrates the mind deeply through extrapolation and comparison. You know what? That's enough studying for today. I close the book, crawl into bed, and take out my phone. 11:27. I should probably start attending lectures again. Not this afternoon, but another day, when Elfrida's there. The Germans and their poets, bunch of dickheads, all of them. I massage myself to sleep thinking about Jasmine. The bed warms up slowly. Lots of birds active this morning. It's stuffy as always in Proteus. Lars walks in. Bernard just called to say he's late. So you made it home safely Tuesday night. I was in bed before 6, I replied dryly. And then you overslept for your classes. Go get us some beers. It's okay, I've built up a reputation, I say with a smile, as I leave for the bar. I do actually attend classes, just not all of them. It has to do with the way I take up information. But that's completely beyond Lars's comprehension. Immanuel Kant wouldn't leave his study for months on end. Never saw a university from the inside, but he didn't do any worse over it. I have to fight my way to get to the bar, and as the lady pours 2 beers, I see traces of white soapy water running down the inside of the glasses. The thought of the rancid dishwater mixing with my beer makes me gag inaudibly. It was a busy day at the administration office, Lars says as I return. Next year's grant deadlines are coming up soon, and as always, those cobblers are sending their applications in last minute. What about the theater committee, I ask. Oh, they're on time, as always. We might actually come across them tonight. Lars looks at me. You've got a crush on Miss Von Buren, don't you? There's a worried tone in his voice. Bernard told me. Maybe, I reply. Well, you're not the only one, he smiles. There's something about that girl that drives virtually every guy insane. My stomach turns. In any case, don't expect too much from her, Lars continues more seriously. I'm not sure she's exactly your type. What do you mean? I asked, annoyed. Lars makes a dismissive gesture, but I continue staring at him. Listen, William. Once in a while, you have this tendency to be a little too nice to girls. What's wrong with that? I reply sharply. Look, there's nothing wrong with that in itself. You'll probably even get away with it once or twice. But girls like Jasmine, they're different. They're used to that kind of treatment. You need to play it tight with them, you understand? His words evoke unpleasant thoughts, leaving me with the notion that something that was once very pure has now been irredeemably perverted. Anyway, they're planning to visit the NTA performance of the Bacchus next semester, Les continues. I just greenlit their grant. Expensive. That's pretty serious, I mumble. I don't know how to pronounce Bacchus. You know, I add, Bernard's troupe will be staging there too. About a quarter, I think it was. Oh yeah, Lars comments. I heard that. But I think there's some bad blood between Bernard and the theater committee. Something about professional standards, if I remember. Wait a minute, Evelyn's calling. Lars enters the phone. As I'm about to take a sip from my beer, I recall the soapy water clinging to the inside of the glasses. And just in time, I place the glass somewhere on the table behind me. Lars has a short conversation with Evelyn and hangs up the phone. She's in the abyss. Let's move over there. I'll text Bernard. Where's your beer? Oh, it's all gone. We can go. There's a chubby woman standing on the dance floor chatting with a friend. A few guys are circling around them like toothless sharks with decrepit faces from drinking too much dishwasher. Dishwater. Ew. Hello, Simon. Welcome. Let's go, Lars. Calm down. I can't drink as fast as you. Chug it down, killer clown. That's my impression of a clown nose. The hum of the city is louder than usual. There's a lot of people on the move tonight. Okay. You're dressed too thinly, Lars calls out, pointing at my jacket. It's going to be cold. Don't patronize me, Van Dyke. Distractedly, I look upwards where the catenary wires of the trolley buses across the sky. The buses of Bremersburg are like marionettes led through the city of wires. Suddenly, we hear a terrible sound coming in our direction. Youthful, brazen cries with an unmistakable undertone of violence. It's a band of adolescents roaring loudly that's coming rushing around the corner. One of them catches my attention. He's short, stocky build, broad chest and arms. And as he runs by, he pulls open his mouth to shout something, causing the contours of his dark red lips to stand out strikingly against his pale white cheeks. I stare after him until the whole group's disappeared from sight. That's great, you hear Lars mutter behind me. If they're heading for the abyss, we'll have to go someplace else. We pass through a heavy door and enter a small hallway that's filled with the noise from the club. The doorman asks us for an entrance fee, but Lars seems adamant to get in for nothing. That's nonsense, he protests. It's a Thursday night. Nothing wrong with Thursdays, the doorman counters. I'm sorry, boys. There's a party on tonight and it's full house. You can take it or leave. I push past Lars and hand the man a 50. We each receive a black stamp on our hand featuring an obscure depiction of a simian. And one of those filthy stamps, too, I hear Lars mumbling as we head towards the dance floor. We find Matt and Evelyn standing with a few people I don't know. I try to dance, but keep bumping into the limbs of the people around me, causing their sweat to rub off on my shirt. Next round's for you, Schwehund, Lars calls out as he hands me a beer. The music's loud, and the longer I listen to it, the more I grow aware of a kind of primitive, mesmerizing cadence in the thumping tones. I finish my beer and leave the group to get rid of my glass. There's a sea of people in all directions. Everyone looks the same in the crowd. The bare backs, the faces, the polo shirts. And then, less than 40 meters away, I distinguish Jasmine's chestnut brown hair. She's facing my way, but doesn't seem to notice me. I move closer, and it turns out that she's standing with my friends. You didn't get us any beers, Lars calls out at me. For me too, Matt chimes in. You know you can't dance with a beer in your hand, I reply, rolling my eyes. And you're a despicable excuse for a human being. You know that? Matt shouts, shaking his head in feigned indignance. I look over at Jasmine. Our eyes meet for a second, but she turns away. I lean over to Matt, who's standing close to me. How long has she been here? What? Who? Matt asks with a stupid expression on his face. Never mind, I call back a little softer. Matt looks at me like I'm crazy before returning his focus onto his preposterous little dance. And Lars's words kept bugging me. It's not like I place women on a pedestal. I'm just not a douchebag like Lars. But still, I give it a try, imagining that she's not that pretty after all. Strands of dry hair hanging down her dulled, skinny cheeks. Whenever she speaks, her face wrinkles up a little, as if she's been drinking too much. Her nose, which seemed so tender at first, protrudes distortedly beyond her far too short upper lip. Suddenly, she lowers her gaze, with her mouth closed. She's looking for something in her bag. Her proportions appear a little skewed. She brings out a packet of cigarettes, holds it up, and looks around the circle, smiling broadly. I smile back at her. She beckons me, and I follow her into the smoking room. It's working. The pungent smell of cigarette smoke permeates everything. It enters my lungs and fires me up, encouraging me. I sit down next to her. So what are you majoring in? She asks. I think I've seen you at Unit E. She hands me a cigarette. Could be, I reply. I'm doing German Lit. You're in the TC, right? You guys still have tickets for Backe? Backe? Yeah, sure, she responds disinterestedly. So, do you like going out? Without waiting for an answer, she reaches for my head and giggles. You've got really nice hair, you know that. It's okay, I respond. Sorry, I've had a little too much to drink. She keeps playing with my hair. It's all a bit too lighthearted for me. I grab her hand and move it away from my head and smile. She comes in a bit closer, causing the fabric of her skirt to rub up against my fingers. "Thanks for coming along," she says, after we finish our cigarettes. "Everyone's quit smoking nowadays." "So have I laugh. "They're probably talking behind our backs right now." "We're just smoking buddies," she whispers. "Okay?" We return to the dance floor, and as the evening passes, we stay very close together, getting each other drinks and dancing to the music. I noticed Lars looking at me now and again, with an undetermined expression on his face. At about 2 a.m., we head back to the smoking room. "You want another drink?" I ask. "No, you don't need it." I put my arm around her. "Want to head back to my place?" she asks in a childish voice. I get up and pull her along. Outside, she silently unlocks her bicycle. Her bare arms are shivering in the midnight wind. "You want my jacket?" I ask. "Stop being so nice." "I'll tell you where to go," she says softly. After her bicycle finally breaks free, she jumps on the back. And as we ride through the streets of Bremersburg together, it feels like everything has built up to this one moment, as if something incomprehensibly as large is about to unfold. A great time is commencing. Bathroom's down the hall. She unbuttons her coat and throws it onto the double bed that stands in the middle of the room, before disappearing into the kitchen. Her room overlooks a few more student buildings. A few windows still have lights burning. "I'll get us some water," she calls out from the kitchen. I go and sit down on the bed. I look around at the posters of the theater committee on the wall, at her bookcase. She's been away for quite a while now. Too long to just be pouring water. And I try to imagine that I'm not waiting for her, that I'm only visiting without reason, just to be here. But it doesn't work. I'm groggy from all the beer. She returns without the water and takes place next to me on the bed. She's drunk. It's all very easy this way. I should have gone to the bathroom. But she's too close now. Her breath tastes of alcohol and tobacco. And for a second, I ponder how many other boys she's done this with. Her cast-off coat is rubbing up against my back. I try to push it away in vain. In the corner of my eye, I could distinguish part of her face. My hand moves towards her chest. "Go ahead," she whispers in my ear. And I pull on her blouse buttons, but my right arm's cramping and they won't give away. I wonder what she was doing in the kitchen for so long. It's warm. I need the toilet. I can't get a grip on those buttons. "Any plans for tonight?" I ask her in an attempt to relieve the tension. "Oh, well, yeah," she answers demandingly. her eyes pressed into tiny slits. But it's dissipated entirely. Now that they were in bed together, about to make love, I've grown painfully aware that what's unfolding here is actually the most mundane thing in the world. I'm one in a series of thousands. My great time hasn't come yet. Maybe it's true. Jasmine isn't my type of girl. It's hot, and I need to urinate. There we go, she mumbles as she finally helps me undo her blouse. But I pull my arm away. I need to go to the bathroom, I mutter inaudibly as I get up. She's staring at me, dumbstruck, but I don't even notice. I'm out of the room, down the stairs, away from the apartment complex. A tropical breeze is blowing through my hair. Onward now without looking back. Onward now without looking back. Part 2, Winter. I'm gonna save that for right now. Before it gets any louder, I think I should probably end stream. Been streaming a lot, actually. Just not lengthy streams, you know. Just a lot of little streams that I've been sprinkling around each day. It's gonna get hot later. Oh, it's gonna suck. I'm not gonna be able to focus on stories for too long. So then I'm gonna have to go back to like fuck it games. Just fuck off games. You know what I mean? Just go on a game that you go on just to fuck off. Battlefield 5. Maybe the Elder Scrolls. I don't know if I'm gonna get back on that. It's been, I don't know. Just wish I had people to play games with, you know. Anyway, that's gonna be it for right now, for this game at least. I'm gonna head off and, I don't know, maybe watch Beavis and Butthead because I haven't seen it. I don't know what I'm gonna do. Anyway, I hope you guys have a good day. Hope you enjoyed. Holy fuck, my capture code is working. It's freaking working. I'm so happy. The new setup will be ready with installed next week and all 3 hours the last one. Dark Wasp got his capture card to work. Hey, that means that he's gonna be able to have his PC working and stuff. Nice. For all the streamers that have showed up in my stream, just gonna do a little shout out. Final Fantasy Online? Gummy? What? Huh. Alright, well, you guys have a good day. Hope you enjoyed the read. Birds are probably going to get even louder. People are starting to wake up, probably. And I don't really want the outside noises to get too bothersome. I really don't want to keep on reading up until the point where it's hot again, so I'm just going to take this time to, I don't know, take a quick nap or some shit while it's not hot. So, with that being said, that's the end of this stream. I hope you all enjoyed watching if you did. And hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Later, yo.